Hey guys, welcome back. We're a little bit late on coming out with today's, or well, with what would have been yesterday's video if I wasn't so busy, with day 2 of week 6 on analysis on Clutch Gaming. So this series sponsored by Duca. Thanks Duca that, I was busy yesterday. Hope it's not an issue that I'm getting it out late. Today we're going to be looking at the Echo Fox game, which I didn't watch yet. We're on our first take. I hope that stays that way. This game looks incredibly short, so I don't know how long today's video will be. So we're going to go ahead and fill in some other content just to make sure. But I'm certainly excited for the end of the split in a lot of regions, just because playoffs are going to be so insane this season because of how the meta is kind of sitting. But just looking at CG specifically right now, here is their 6-day lineup on their next 3 weeks. So Fly on blue, CLG red, Liquid blue, GG red, and they finish out the split with 2 blue games against TSM and C9. So remember that when you look at these standings, you do need to see Clutch winning at least 5 games to even consider getting a tiebreaker slot. Or I guess if 4 teams of really anyone that's under 4th place do incredibly bad, because I didn't look at how each team could perform in each team's matchups, and if they're facing each other, and what's the minimum amount of points that you're going to need this split. I'm sure someone's done that, but it generally is going to come and sit at that 5 points to get to 9, and then sit at a tiebreaker slot for a possible run in the playoffs. So that would be really exciting to see. It would probably be really exciting to analyze and keep this series going. From how we saw Clutch look yesterday, and from what I understand, that Clutch wins the game today, and that it apparently was similar to I said yesterday, but Saturday's game. Fly and CLG might be no problem for Clutch. Liquid is still going to pose an issue for Clutch. I think Liquid tends to start trying weird things once they're already locked into playoffs. And they could drop a game. GG, I think, is probably the easiest team to beat and who's left on the standings. And then TSM and C9. TSM is beatable, but they're really, really strong. So I would expect this to be a harder game, but still a winnable one. And then C9 does not mess around ever. They're very serious. And given the fact that Clutch will be taking blue side, which their blue side drafts haven't been bad recently, that's gonna be a tough game to close out the split. So let's go ahead and get into the analysis after. Or well, do I have any other announcements? No, there's a couple more weeks left in my split. My team is in the Costa Rican League, and we're undefeated. I'm currently with Infinity Esports. You can cheer for Infinity Esports' main team in LLA, the Liga Latinoamerica, or the Liga Movistar, and hope that they go to MSI, which would be super cool, and maybe I can tag along with them or not. I don't know. And if you guys want coaching, you can go ahead and send me an email, and we can try and find a time. So let's get into this draft. Clutch ban Zoe. I'm in bad color here. Zoe, Sejuani ban, Thresh, Silas ban, Nocturne ban, J-Span. What is out of the normal here? Well, one, I believe it was when I did Monday's review, Clutch had first pick Silas? Or were they on blue side? Silas' first pick is just really odd right now because you see him triple flexed into top mid and jungle. And that causes a big issue for teams, and he has high base damages, and with the sustain, when he's built like a bruiser, and there's good ultimates to take, then he can end up being really annoying, and he can be really snowbally as kind of like a bruiser fighter, who's really hard to kill in the mid game. And then still in the late game, depending on the ultimates that he can steal, still be quite difficult to play against. And the biggest issue with Clutch, or not Clutch, the biggest issue with Silas on blue side is that when people do pick Silas on blue side, it makes the red side draft like 10 times harder because you have to be really careful about which champions you are going to be picking, because you know that the enemy team is going to be prioritizing any kind of difficult ults that you're going to be bringing to the table. Other than that, we see the Nocturne ban, which usually signifies that you're probably going to have immobile people who aren't going to have a lot of protection. So I don't know. It's weird. They banned Nocturne and Zoe. This might be because Echo Fox favored these champions. I don't watch anyone besides Clutch in NA right now, so I can't speculate. Besides that, Clutch is not wanting to play against these things right now. And Thresh is extremely strong, and that Zoe is a tier 1 mid laner. The Nocturne ban is probably something to do with Echo Fox's preferences. From what I know, or what I think is high priority on bans. Anyway, Cassiopeia pick comes in first, so this is another pick that's triple flex. I don't know why I put support there. I put top mid ADC. This does give blue side a little bit more flexibility in how they want to draft. Echo Fox go ahead and they respond with Jarvan and Galio. So this is your standard heavy engage tempo comp. Not your best jungler, and Galio probably being flexed into support. It looks like he's being flexed into support. Not your 100% best situation for these two champions, because Jarvan, I don't think Jarvan's the strongest blind pick, although he is reliable in terms of just putting out some early game pressure, not having the worst clear, and then having some lockdown for targets that don't have dashes. So not bad against Cassiopeia either, because Cassiopeia's E, or not her E, her W, her miasma, goes ahead and stops people from dashing. So Jarvan can actually ignore that, because his dash is not a dash, it's a pull. He's pulling himself towards his target zone, so it does not affect him to be grounded. Alright, there is some validity in the pick. And the Galio as a support is coming out lately because it gives pretty good lane priority, and frankly, it's just annoying. I don't think that Galio's support will last very long, like as a meta lifetime, but you know, we'll see. Clutch go ahead and they pick up Alistar. Alistar's great to bottom lane with Cassiopeia, but is also just great with engage and roams towards mid, so we know Vulcan is very happy to play Alistar. And then Aurelia comes out, which is another triple flex. So having two flexes definitely makes the draft a lot easier on blue side. Why does that keep happening? Do not know. I think we'll be fine. Whoa. I didn't mean that. Anyway, yeah, Aurelia Cassiopeia definitely makes the draft a lot easier for Clutch Gaming. They know that blind picking something is going to be really uncomfortable for them, because they don't really want anyone in a bad matchup, especially in the position they're in when they really need to win games. They want to have all of the flexibility and all the comfortability that they possibly can have. So I'm definitely in support of these first 3 picks. Echo Fox go ahead and they pick Ezreal. So this is probably the safest pick that they could bring into the bottom lane. I don't think Ezreal actually synergizes that well with Galio, but it does take it away from Clutch Gaming, who seems to like having Piglet on Ezreal. I don't. And Ezreal is fairly good against Galio, just because Ezreal can blink out of the Galio ult, and the Galio ult's not really that useful if it can't hit a primary carry. Echo Fox decided to ban junglers out. They ban out Lee and Elise, so lots of early game pressure. Then you see Clutch banning out LeBlanc and Orianna. So Orianna would give great synergy. LeBlanc would take away one of Echo Fox's mostly comfortable picks into having a possible 1-3-1, and maybe it's also a request by Demonte. So I'm not sure which champion they're actually giving him when just looking at this. At least not without thinking. I mean, I would think he would play Aurelia because Syndra, but you know, LeBlanc would complicate mid lane a lot. Neither of these 2 champions are very good into LeBlanc. Yasuo's okay, but also not great into LeBlanc. So with those intentions, it's not really something that they want to play against, and that's fine. Echo Fox turn to Syndra as a kind of blind pick. I think Syndra is really odd here, but it's okay. The problem with Syndra is probably meant to be played against Aurelia as something that can knock Aurelia away, even though Syndra's immobile, and not actually allow Aurelia to have all of the pressure in her lane. But with the stun that Aurelia has on her E, 0.75 seconds, if Demonte plays it right, the E on Apollo will actually not be that useful. It will only be useful if he's able to E Demonte away or stun him when he wants to go in, and maybe cancel his Q so he doesn't get the reset, and not having the reset would definitely screw over his intentions on engaging. It is very good into Cassiopeia. Well, not very good, but it's fairly good into Cassiopeia. You want to try to pressure her in lane, so this is like a snowball, like Jarvan Syndra combo would just one-shot Cassiopeia at level 6. She can't really do anything to get away except flash, and if you can take her flash earlier than that, because Jarvan is fairly good at helping Syndra take her flash, then you definitely can have a pretty strong mid lane duo with that if it were to go against Cassiopeia. Although, if I were Echo Fox, I wouldn't be thinking that I'd be playing against Cassiopeia, because we know that Clutch Gaming has played Cassie in top, we know that they played Cassie in bot. I don't think that Demonte has actually played Cassie in any game. So, I think this is an error by Echo Fox. I don't really like that pick. But it does go along with their team comp, which says like mid game snowballing, mid game power comp. This would be like your carry removal. This would be your backline damage. This could even provide some damage over time as well. It's a mid-range mage after she has her ultimate. You have pretty heavy front line with decent damage and a split pusher, so you get this mid game 4-1. But I still don't like Syndra. I don't think it's great here. Anyway, I kind of sidetracked a little bit. Yasuo and Gragas get picked up by Clutch Gaming after they see the Syndra pick. The Yasuo pick is particularly interesting. This is another triple flex pick. Although you don't see Yasuo in top a lot, there's not a lot of great matchups for Yasuo on top. But if you see Gnar come back in a meta, you might see Yasuo go top. That would be a Huni special. Not really much to say about it. Yasuo is amazing against Ezreal is also amazing against Syndra because he can block the entire Syndra ult. So definitely something that just removes most of the damage that Echo Fox can put out. And then you get Gragas. So Yasuo now has two things to ult off of. He's got a lot of pressure in this game. And the Gragas is also just going to be putting out a lot of early pressure is pretty good into Jarvan. Okay. Echo Fox go ahead and they respond with Yorick. I don't know if I like the Yorick here, but Yorick is just extremely strong in patch 9.4. So I don't think Yorick can lose any lane early on, assuming that it's played right. So maybe this is actually good to play around, especially if Jarvan can give any pressure to Yorick. It does give double cage, which is kind of funny. Can provide a lot of synergy with the Galio. So we'll see what Echo Fox is able to do in this game. It appears that Piglet is getting Aurelia. They are sending Yasuo against Syndra, and then they go ahead and they send Cassiopeia against the Yorick. So this is one lane that Yorick will have trouble in. He'll still be able to farm, and if he can get on top of Cassiopeia with his ult, then the lane still becomes something where Cassiopeia just can't interact, which is kind of sad just because Yorick is always like that. I don't know why that keeps happening to me. Huh. But you know. So this lane will push. These will both try to early pressure. Syndra will push early, but Damonte will push later. Actually, Damonte can push level 1, 2. Syndra's going to push later. And then Damonte after like level 6 might start pushing again. This is really complicated because Yasuo like level 1, 2, 3, especially if he can get a level lead and get the push, has a lot of early game damage and can definitely cheese a lane. And I'm not sure how aggressive Damonte wants to play. I prefer when he's farming and controlling his lane, and he's not actually being that aggressive. Because I think he just performs better when he's following what the team is doing, and that may be a part of like the communication, and how what works for them. Given that I have listened to like some other coaches' speculation on like what's going on within the communication of the team, and I'm not really sure if these guys speak in Korean more than they do English. But if Damonte is supporting the majority of the team rather than being a primary carry, then it also might help out. Not that he can always do that, as we saw with the previous game that they should have won. And then I think the Aurelia bot's fine. Aurelia can chase Ezreal pretty good if she can get the reset on her Q. So this definitely turns into a good matchup for Aurelia. These guys will contest the push, but they won't necessarily push just because early on Ezreal is going to have a lot of damage. But when Ezreal is in that really uncomfortable state, when he has Sheen tier, and not actually that much damage, then the Phage Aurelia will probably be pushing the lane, even if Galio's here, just because Alistar can act so strong. So you do see that those pushing side lanes happen for the mid game. So that's actually really good. I apologize for the dogs. I really can't help it. I try to record the videos on a time in which they won't bark. I frankly don't even know what they're barking at. But it's more like they just choose to do what they want when they want. Okay. So standard 5-point comes out from both teams. Gragas will actually be starting the buff by himself. So no leash coming from Piglet. They definitely want to go ahead and try and contest priority in the bottom lane. Fox don't have any information, or I don't believe that they saw Gragas walk in there. Oh no, they did. They did. Fox know exactly where Gragas is right now. I would assume that if I were CG, that Jarvan's starting top. Both junglers taking the same path. This is a very strong path just for like early gold. When you're not going to try and pressure a lane like level 3 or level 4. Just so you can get your when you get your early golems in, they're up faster, and you end up having more gold in the long run. Wow, this is interesting. They're running the exact same path without actually having a lot of vision on each other. So bot lane pushing early as expected. So they don't want to get cheesed by Galio and early damage while they're still squishy. Panda does go ahead and he goes for some counter jungling, so that will put him a little bit ahead of Lyra, but it won't be a big issue. Just one camp. So both junglers going back to their golems. So even though CG have a melee lane right now, because it's Ezreal, they have a lot of pressure in the bottom lane. As long as Piglet has mana, that back's getting stopped. Piglet should just be careful and know that he's probably going to get pushed back on anyway. Dragon's going to be going over to Fox. This isn't really something that CG should be worried about. If Damonte were bottom side and they have information on it, they probably would be able to stop it, but it's not very important for them to stop it because it's a wind dragon. It's not going to impact the game in a way to make it unwinnable or will change the win condition a lot. And without the early pressure in bot, then it's also complicated. Whoa, Vulcan going for an aggressive play, trading his flash for Panda's flash. So this is actually an interesting behavior, and I use the term behavior because it's the proper term when thinking about game theory, in which someone has the option to do something, and when repeatedly given that option and other options, such as to not do it or to use his flash for something else, Vulcan tends to trade his flash for the enemy jungler's flash almost whenever he can. Whenever he's in a position to do so, and often even seems to look for these positions. This is actually favorable for clutch gaming because it kind of takes away all kinds of pressure that Jarvan would normally have. Wait, did they not see that? Alright, that was pretty silly looking. So Lyra not looking too proactive at this point in the game. He doesn't seem like that there's an important reason to do anything. I think they could easily take more flashes off the map, but he's probably being very careful as to where Jarvan might be. I think him, Vulcan, him and Vulcan and even Damonte, when Damonte does have the push, because that does go back and forth in the mid lane, they should be getting a little bit more vision just in the enemy jungle. A ward here and a ward here, or even if Lyra could get a deeper ward there or a ward there with Alistar, that those 4 wards would say a lot about where Jarvan is, where he's going, where he can be. And give Lyra the option to possibly try and force flashes in lanes. And it's not even such that he needs to get kills, but once he makes someone like Syndra flashless, he can kind of just walk in and ult her, and then once Yasuo ults her, it becomes really difficult for her to live still. This is actually really well played by Damonte. So yeah, that's the win wall, that's the counter coming out on stopping the Syndra ult. He didn't take any damage from Syndra ult. So Damonte himself actually didn't have to, or Lyra himself didn't have to do anything to get Phoenix's flash, although that does make Phoenix very vulnerable. And I think that should be noted, that you can actually, only due to the conditions of the game, play around Damonte right now, just because it's really easy. You know, it's an immobile Syndra. She has barrier, but that's not actually a big issue. But it's a lot easier than trying to kill Ezreal Galio. And it's also a lot easier than trying to kill Yorick. This kill on Yorick has to do a lot with Fox actually making an error and not CG forcing something. CG just took advantage of the fact that Fox, well, really more Solo trying to take out a ward or trying to contest some vision with Huni, and Huni engaged on him, and Lyra had Predator, so he's nearby. So the game is still really tranquil. There's not a whole lot that's happened, and there's not a whole lot that really needs to happen, because once mid game comes, this game gets really hard for Fox. Unless they go ahead and get some kind of lead on Ezreal. Once they get 2 items on Ezreal, they can actually start to 1-4. And when they 1-4, they might be able to do something. But CG can respond with 1-3-1. And they can respond with 1-3-1 in multiple ways. They can send Huni and they could send Huni and I'm gonna miss something. They can send Huni and Piglet into side lanes. Or they can send Damonte and Piglet in the side lanes and play with the other 3 in the mid lane, or whichever lane which they want to put 3 in. Play 1-1-3 or 3-1-1 or whatever is necessary at the moment. And that can make it really complicated for Fox, because Huni himself, if nobody else can contest Yorick, as long as he has more items. Because he's actually got a lead on Yorick right now, and if that lead tends to increase, Yorick will actually have big issues in trying to contest him. Because this is one of the few matchups in which Yorick can't smash. Yorick is really great against melee matchups and abusing anyone who can't really get out of his baby cage. So let's see what happens here. Damonte, this is just an unsafe zone to be. Does he have any vision? No, he has 0 vision. So yeah, this is an error. Unless they were calling him to go there, that's an error. And if he's okay with doing that for his team, then maybe it's okay, but they can't even get anything out of it. This is a really dangerous spot. I've talked about it in other VOD reviews. This is a really dangerous spot to be in when you don't have vision. So if you wanna travel across the map, because you have no vision, you want to go around, and that makes it really unfortunate, because this is actually the pathway that you would take, the fastest way to get to bot. But I don't really know what he's doing. I don't know if they want to make a play around bot. The Cloud Drake's up in a minute. Maybe he wants to get vision, but if he wants to get vision, then he needs to be a lot more careful. And he should probably have someone nearby. He doesn't have anyone nearby. If Fox move up to him, and Fox sees someone, and then he moves in with Fox, or not Fox, with CG, like if they move in together, it's not really that much of an issue. Even if he dies, he'd probably be able to get something done. But it's still really difficult for anything to happen. This actually makes the game really complicated because you really want to have those sums on Piglet so that you're able to be aggressive. Interesting. That is really unfortunate for Fox. So Huni really practiced on Cassiopeia. Actually solo kills Solo. Unfortunate name. I like Solo, but that's funny. That means Huni's probably gonna get first blood tower. Yeah, there's first blood tower for Huni, and the previous error that Fox made when Solo died in top, lost them Rift Herald. Wow, Huni is actually gonna carry this game. Yeah, this game is entirely in Clutch Gaming's control now. So it's hard to say if Huni's winning the game or if Solo's losing it, but it's basically the same thing, isn't it? Fox is actually playing with a lot of pressure. They capitalized on a very common error, and you know this wouldn't always be an error. It's more of you know, it's more of chance. It's more of how much information do you have. When this happens, like this is really common. You either get picks here or you get picks here when you're on red side and you're still it's in its extended laning phase. If you're trying to play around bot side, because picks here and here are actually really easy to get. So they managed to get a pretty decent lead, which they may not have gotten, and that actually gives them tempo on the rest of the map and takes away Piglet's summoners. But the problem is that Huni actually goes ahead and gets first blood tower solo gold. So if I could show, and then they capitalize with Rift Herald for mid tower as well. So like the entire map's like gone for Fox on the top side. So we can just try and guess on how much gold Huni has. This is 1200, this is 1250, this is 1100, this is 1050. I mean, well, it's 3833 minus 333. It's 3000 gold. Or 3500 gold. And then 1700 from boots. I believe that is 1300 plus 850 plus 1100 or 1050. That would be 3000 something. That would be 3500, 1600. I believe he should be more ahead than that. Like, he has this big CS lead. Is he holding gold? Has he backed yet? Oh no, he hasn't backed yet. Let's see what he buys. Holy shit, he bought a Leandri's. Yeah, he's ahead. Before that he had about the same amount of like usable active gold, and then he just straight up bought a Leandri's on top of an amp tome. So he's like 2000 gold over, or maybe even a little bit less over the Yorick. And that's a huge issue for Fox because you're talking about a champion that brings enough DPS to do early barons, and just also DPSs in fights insanely. Wow, Fox just got wrecked. Wow, so Huni's playing this game great, like actually great. So when he makes this engage here, he actually stops Fox from having any chance of leaving through the other sector. And because they're leaving through this sector, just to get a little bit more forward here, you can't go this way because you're going to have to go up to get out, because they're going to get stuck against this wall here, and they might be able to move that way and possibly get into their tier 2 tower, but it's really just not that safe. So they get stuck in this funnel point, in which once they're past this point here, they're locked out of making that decision, and then they have to get stuck here. They're all gonna funnel into this point, into this choke point, and then this just turns into a great play by CG, and it's all spearheaded by Huni. Huni locked them into this path, and I think that if Fox were smarter, they might have split. And if they split, it actually would have been a lot harder for CG to capitalize. And the lead gained by CG might not be as great, but this just is complete destruction for CG, and really just takes so much away from Fox. Like, they get one tower on Yorick, but that's really not going to be worth a lot. Losing tier 1 tower on blue side means so little to blue side, just because of the way the map works. Like no one really is going to push up there anyway. It's just going to be a way for them to farm gold, and this tower doesn't give you any pressure on getting towards Baron. It just locks out Gromp for you. And it's not optimal for you to have that tower to control the river. I mean, like, sure, having the tower is nice, but you don't need it to control river. So, what is Piglet doing? Okay, so he sees them here. He just keeps farming. he just keeps farming. That's actually pretty funny. Maybe CG called that they wanted to fight there because he had stopwatch, but I don't know. I don't think that was all that necessary for Piglet to make that. Like, what did Fox actually did lose that trade? I'll say that. Fox lost this trade. But they also played it really badly. Like, the Ezreal ult and the Galio ult didn't do anything because that Piglet had stopwatch. Like, if Fox knew that Piglet had stopwatch, this would have gone a lot differently. I think that's really silly, actually. Fox is making like some really simple errors, and it's costing them a lot. Like, now they don't have any sums or teleport on their side lane. They just spent all of the resources to get a stopwatch and end up losing the trade. They don't have any ults. If they get caught out in the next 30 seconds, while Galio still doesn't have ult, it's going to be really tough for them. CG ends up forcing the Baron to force them to come towards the fight. Very nice. So here you see the abuse that when Cassiopeia is on your team and she's fed, the amount of DPS that she can have on Baron, like, this thing, how long were they doing this? 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14. So I think they were doing it for 10 seconds. I don't think they were doing it for the entire duration, which I didn't see. I didn't have vision. They're doing it for 10 seconds, and it's below half HP. They did 7,000 damage. And like, Yasuo is also a big part of that damage output. Wait, is Yasuo there? No, Yasuo's not there. This is actually all Cassiopeia damage because Alistar and Gragas like really don't do a whole lot. So Cassiopeia doing basically like 5,500 damage in 10 seconds, and she's only at 2 items. Allows CG to force this Baron and force Fox into making a decision where, hey, if we lose this Baron, we just instantly lose the game. So we have to try and contest it. And due to all of the engage and damage that CG have, they're just able to force on Fox without even thinking about the conditions in which they need to force. Like these conditions were horrible for CG for this fight. Piglet didn't get an ult off. Yasuo gets his ult off on someone that's not actually that useful to kill, because he doesn't have ult. The only thing useful about Galio right now is possibly Flash W. The geometry for the fight's actually really bad. Like Ezreal and Syndra are like straight towards the back line along with Yorick, but it doesn't matter because they don't actually have enough damage at this point to kill anyone. And you have Yasuo and Aurelia dive onto the enemy backline, or the enemy tanks, and just melt through them because their tanks aren't tanky enough to actually do anything. Jarvan actually built damage, so I guess he's really just not tanky at all. Galio's support is never tanky. Like it's really hard for him to get those stats because he doesn't have any gold income besides Targons and kills. So if you're not snowballing on it, it makes it really hard to play. And Yorick, I mean Yorick's kind of tanky. It's kind of hard to kill Yorick, but this is actually a slaughter. Not just because Fox like didn't get an early lead, but because they got forced into some positions that they should never have been in. They should have never even allowed themselves to be in a position to be forced like that. And Solo like really underperformed in the side lane, which allowed Cassiopeia to become so strong. Jesus Christ. I'm not even gonna comment on that because it's not necessary. Yeah, this game's over. I can see why it ended so early. These champions are great for this like 25-minute mark. Like Yasuo's got 100% crit. He's really going to build Sterax next. You see Aurelia on a 2-item spike. Her 3-item spike is actually even nastier. It's just people are generally tankier when you get a 3-item spike. And then you also have a 3-item spike on Cassiopeia, who is a great DPS, and you have a shit ton of engage. So their comp is great for this minute mark, and Fox would normally have a comp that's great for this minute mark, but due to the leads that they lost and the fact that they got flex fucked in top lane, honestly, they couldn't pick. I was questioning the Yorick pick in the draft because yeah, sure, it's really hard for you to make a pick there. Like if I were Fox and I had to pick and the blue team had 3 flexes and I honestly wasn't sure on where each flex was going, I have to pick something that's sturdy enough to be played into all 3, because if I pick something that's going to get absolutely dumpstered by one, it's going to be tough. It's going to be really tough because losing a lane like really hard can ultimately cost you a lot of resources if you're not playing to have that lane not lose. And I don't think playing to have Yorick not lose would actually help him win or actually give them enough pressure for the side lane. Because sure, he could probably 1v1 Yasuo or Aurelia like earlier in the game, if he was building like an armor item after his Triforce. I think that would have given him a lot of opportunity to play, but it's really hard to think about like what else they could have played top. They could have flexed Jarvan top. I think that would have been something that one is really good into Cassiopeia, because it makes her actually really vulnerable. He can make short trades and actually and kind of force her out of lane and kill her and get her flash really early, and then with a little bit of jungle pressure, they can dive Cassiopeia really easily. The problem is, like, what can Fox then pick into Gragas? That's not Jarvan, and that's not a jungler that they banned, because they banned Lee Sin. Whoa, I'm hitting the wrong key. So yeah, what can they pick here to possibly flex Jarvan top lane? Not, I mean, I don't know if Solo's been practicing that, but that is tough. So there's no Nocturne, which actually would be pretty good. There's no Lee Sin, which would also be good. There's no Elise, which would also be good. There's no Sejuani, which would also be good. There is Rek'Sai. Not to say that Rek'Sai is a great champion, but he would be good at abusing a Cassiopeia, and he would be pretty good at helping bottom lane. If Phoenix played it right, he would probably just not do anything in his lane. There's no reason for them to try and kill Yasuo and win wall, unless it's like really free. If Damonte's like being really stupid, then they can kill him. But he can play side lanes with Rek'Sai. He can play side lanes with who else? Who else is there that's actually good right now? He could play Olaf. He could play side lanes with Olaf. That would be really good. That might be it. Because there's not a whole lot they could have picked top for that. What else could they pick top? They could have picked Gangplank, I guess. But I don't think GP's very good. Like, GP's getting a huge buff next in patch 9.5, which came out today. He's getting a huge buff. He's not actually that great. And GP on red side is also not that great because he can get dived really easily. Like that would give Damonte and Lyra a chance to just walk top lane and dive him, and just one shot him. That's a hard question. Yeah, because Vladimir's out of the question. I suppose you could play Camille. I suppose. But that would probably not be very good in their team comp. They don't really want something that's just going to be a scaling split pusher. They want more early and mid game pressure. But Camille could probably work into Cassiopeia. Yeah, that's tough. That's tough. Echo Fox got fucked. The triple flex is kind of nasty, and they played it really well. But most of all, Huni really dominated this game. Like this game was all about Huni's lead and Huni pushing the enemy team into bad positions. Him pushing the enemy team into bad positions just took over the game completely. So great carry from Huni. After seeing him like not perform on a lot of champions throughout the split, seeing him actually consistently perform well on one champion in specific is really nice. I suppose Vulcan and Lyra didn't do bad this game either. Damonte and Piglet like didn't do a whole lot. They were just kind of like they just went in on skirmishes when they needed to. You know, there were some key errors made by DeMonte and Piglet. They were not big errors. They were definitely not errors that changed the game in a significant way. I think if Echo Fox might have had a different team comp, they could have. But they, with how Huni played the game, I don't think Clutch would have lost, even if the conditions were different. Cool. Clutch Gaming being really strong on week 6. Anyway, thanks for watching. If you have any questions, I know the VOD review probably was a little bit quicker today. If you have any questions, please comment and subscribe if you want to come back and check out more videos, because I will be trying to get out more. The Clutch Gaming series is still set for Mondays and Tuesdays, and Wednesday's a makeup day if I'm not able to get a video on some Monday or Tuesday, just like today. And then again, thanks to Duca, who is the sponsor of the series. Thank you so much, and have a wonderful night.